So, who's going to be sitting at the desk next to you tomorrow? Seriously. Are they bringing in that usual lukewarm coffee, arguing about the air conditioning again, or are they just bringing code? Today, we're doing a deep dive into something pretty huge, a really fundamental shift happening in the workplace right now. It's driven by this thing called agentic AI. And we're talking way beyond just simple automation tools you might have heard about. This is AI that doesn't just wait for you to tell it what to do. It tries to anticipate what you need. It acts like a genuine colleague, albeit, a digital one. The source material we looked at lays out this transition really clearly. It shows exactly how AI is moving from being like a tool you use to a proactive partner. So our mission today is to give you the shortcut, the essentials you need to understand this seismic shift in how work actually gets done, so you can move past just knowing about it and actually be, strategically ready for it.
Yeah, and what's really fascinating right from the start is this core distinction the source makes. For years, AI was just seen as software. A search box, maybe a macro, a filter. Useful, but just a tool. Agentic AI, though, it's qualitatively different. The source says it's moving towards becoming a teammate or a coworker in the making. And maybe the most critical phrase they use is a partner in progress. Just that shift in language from tool to partner, that really tells the whole story of how our relationship with tech at work is changing.
Okay, let's unpack that a bit. Tool to teammate. For you listening, maybe the key difference is initiation. Like a tool just sits there, right? Waiting for instructions. You pick it up, use it, put it down. But agentic AI, our source is telling us, is changing its role. It's acting more like a worker or assistant. But okay, let's get past the metaphor for a second. What actually makes this AI agentic? What's the technical thing happening that lets it start a task instead of just reacting when you type something in?
Right, good question. That's where we really need to touch on this idea of the agent loop. Or sometimes it's called task decomposition. This is what gives the tech it's technical power. Agentic AI, basically, it can take a big high-level goal you give it, like say, summarize the regulatory risks for our new product line, and it can break that down autonomously into smaller, actionable steps. It figures out the sequence. Okay, first, I need to search global regulatory filings. Second, pull out the common risk factors. Third, write that up in a memo format. Fourth, maybe even check its own tone, and that's a huge leap, right? Past even sophisticated automation we've seen before, like RPA. That stuff just follows rigid single steps. Agentic AI keeps the context across all those steps. It iterates, corrects itself sometimes, and keeps going until that complex goal is met. That's what the source calls the drop of meaning. AI is learning to shift from tool to teammate, precisely because it can take initiative. It can act on its own.
Okay, so we're definitely not talking about just a faster spreadsheet here. We're talking about something proactive, a colleague that might start on a task before you even log on, maybe have a draft ready for you. And this isn't just theory, is it? The source grounds this in what's happening now.
Exactly. It's presented as the daily reality for, major figures, like Reid Hoffman. Apparently, according to the source, he starts his day with a curious colleague, not of flesh, but of code. That image, it's powerful. It shows this kind of agentic interaction is already part of demanding strategic work. The code colleague isn't just sitting there waiting. It's initiating the workday right alongside the human, doing some of that prep work before the human mind is even fully caffeinated, perhaps.
Okay, let's make this more concrete. The sources mention a specific named example, an agentic AI called deep research. This helps move us past the general idea, right? It gives it a function, almost like hiring someone with a specific job title.
Yeah, deep research is a great example because the name basically tells you what it does. What does it do? The source says it sifts and sorts. Think about that. It's framed as this tireless junior eager to impress. Imagine all that initial heavy lifting research work that really bogs down senior people. The massive digestion of information just to start strategic planning.
Can you give us a really concrete sense of what sifting and sorting means here? Like, if I'm listening and I manage projects, what does deep research actually deliver that's different from me just doing a bunch of Google searches?
Okay, think of it like this. It's the difference between getting a box of raw ingredients versus getting a fully prepped meal plan. Maybe even some dishes already started. So if you ask it to assess market risk, deep research isn't just going to dump 10,000 links on you. No, it might say, analyze the last 5 years of annual reports from 10 competitors. Identify the common risk language they use, summarize how investor warnings have changed over time, then maybe cross-reference all that against current economic indicators, and then produce, say, a structured 10-page draft memo with risks already categorized and prioritized. It does that huge upfront work, create structure out of all that initial chaos.
Wow, okay. That genuinely sounds transformative, handling that first really heavy lift. But this leads straight into that really critical nuance the source brings up. The reason this is a partnership, not just a replacement, this AI, even though it's tireless,
Correct.
it's not perfect, right?
Exactly right. If deep research was flawless, well, then it would be a replacement, and we wouldn't be talking about partnership. But the source is very specific about this duality.
Mm.
It explicitly notes that tools like this are sometimes brilliant, sometimes bumbling.
Hold on, bumbling. That sounds inefficient. If I'm paying for a colleague who's brilliant sometimes but also makes mistakes, messes things up, if the AI needs constant human checking, editing, guidance, aren't we just adding a really complex new management layer instead of actually boosting productivity?
That's the tension, isn't it? And it's exactly the point that highlights why the human partner remains essential. Why is it bumbling? Often because it lacks true context, real world judgment, common sense, frankly. You can't always tell the difference between something that's factually accurate versus something that just sounds plausible based on the text it analyzed. It might hallucinate a statistic or make a weird logical jump because it started with a bad source. But what's fascinating is that this imperfection is precisely what forces the partnership model. It means the AI is flawed, yet full of potential. The human absolutely has to step in as the editor, the synthesizer, the strategic guide. The AI takes away the grunt work, yes, but it demands that the human elevates their own role. Focus on quality control, ethical judgment, the big picture. You have to supervise it, check its work, question its assumptions, guide its output, just like you would with a very smart but very inexperienced, maybe slightly naive junior team member.
Okay, that reframes it completely. It's not about the AI taking over jobs, it's about demanding that humans focus on providing direction and judgment. So let's bring this right back to listeners' workplace. What's the actual relationship here between the mind of flesh and the mind of code? How do we define this partnership?
The source is crystal clear on the most important point. Agentic AI is explicitly not a replacement. That's the headline. It's defined again as that partner in progress. The AI handles the autonomous legwork, the endless sifting, the sorting, the drafting, but the ultimate responsibility, the strategic oversight, the nuanced quality checks, making sure it actually makes sense, that stays firmly with the human. You could say the machine is the engine, maybe, but the human is still the pilot and the navigator.
So the human role gets elevated, not wiped out. Instead of spending hours compiling data, you spend those hours making better decisions based on the data the AI compiled. But that collaboration, it must come with real management challenges. How do leaders get their teams to, well, trust a colleague they know makes mistakes sometimes? That bumbling factor again.
That is the management challenge for the next decade, I think. Trust here gets built through transparency and through understanding the limitations. If you, as a manager, understand that deep research is amazing at synthesizing huge volumes of text, but may be terrible at nuanced legal interpretation, you design the workflow around that. Your human team members need training not just on how to use the tool, but how to audit its output, how to apply critical thinking precisely where the code falls short. And if you zoom back out, this all connects to that really striking image the source uses. It perfectly sums up where this is heading. Tomorrow's desks will seat minds of metal beside minds of flesh. It underscores that the future of work is collaborative and integrated, literally side by side.
Yeah, that visualization. Minds of metal beside minds of flesh. It really sticks with you. It totally changes the picture of a normal office, doesn't it? And it raises immediate, practical questions for you listening. You have to think about what it means to actually manage this collaboration, especially with a partner that's tireless, never needs coffee, never gets bored, but is also, yeah, demonstrably bumbling. That burden of editing, refining, catching the errors, it falls squarely on the human partner. So the real challenge isn't just the tech itself, it's managerial. It's
Right.
about setting clear boundaries, accountability.
Absolutely. The machine might deliver the first draft, maybe even the fifth draft, but the human delivers the final responsible product. If the AI, in its bumbling way, misinterprets some crucial data and that leads to a bad product recommendation, who's on the hook? The human partner. They had to have the judgment, the oversight to stop that error before it ever gets to a client or to the executive team. So the AI speeds things up massively, but the human has to know when to slow down, to apply that strategic review, that verification. That's the elevated human role in action.
Okay, so let's sum up this deep dive. Agentic AI is emerging as this autonomous, sometimes flawed, but really high potential code colleague. We saw the example of deep research. It's a shift from a simple tool you use on demand to a proactive teammate that initiates work, maybe using something like that agent loop, and the workplace. It's becoming this blend, minds of metal, minds of flesh, where the human role has to shift from just doing the task to editing, directing, and ensuring quality.
Which leaves us with one final, maybe quite important question for you, the listener, to think about in your own context. If the goal here really is partnership, not replacement, and we know this powerful code colleague is also prone to making mistakes, what are those core professional, ethical, practical responsibilities, things like factual verification, strategic judgment, ultimate accountability, that only the mind of flesh can really handle right now when working side by side with the mind of metal? Really consider, where does that final sign off, that ultimate authority, absolutely have to sit in this new era of automated partnership?